Alright, so I put a few treats on the bed and the boys are both here. Hopefully they'll hang around. They may not. They may run off. Hey? The treat's yummy. Okay. So it looks like I could only buy Derek's attention for so long with treats. But anyway, welcome. This is episode 89 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. He's now there scratching the scratch post. Sorry. Welcome to episode 89 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. Welcome if you are new. My name is Mina, and if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I am coming to you from our temporary home in New York. We will be moving into our permanent apartment in less than 2 weeks, so that's really exciting. And well, about a week now actually, but anyway, beside the point. Thank you so much for joining me today. Like I said, if you're new or returning, I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just also wanted to say, I noticed this morning as I was getting ready to film, we just hit over 11,000 subscribers on the channel, which is insane. So thank you so much to everybody. I'm probably going to wait until the new year to do some sort of giveaway or something for that. Just don't have the time or brain capacity to think about it right now. But thank you so much to everyone who comes back every week, who tunes into the podcast, who chats on Ravelry and interacts on Instagram and stuff like that. It's been a great community, and I've really been enjoying this journey so far. So thank you so much. And I guess I should say the date. Today is Tuesday the 20th of December. 5 days left till Christmas, which is really, really exciting. I have to say, I haven't been feeling as festive as I thought I would be. I think just because everything's been so hectic since we got here. We've had so much to do, and just not a lot of downtime. But we did actually get to do a couple of Christmassy things this week, which was nice. So I'll talk more about that at the end of the podcast. But yeah, so in advance, because I'll probably forget at the end, for anyone who celebrates, I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And yeah, we'll jump right in. I have a couple of announcements quickly at the beginning, and then we'll go into finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions or things that came in the mail, and then I'll answer any questions that are in the thread, and then a bit of a week in review at the end for you guys. So that's pretty much how this episode is gonna go. I am also 31 weeks pregnant now, so if I sound a bit out of breath, it's probably because I am, but the baby's like just taking up a lot of space now, but she's doing good, which is all good. So yeah, so the mystery knit along that I'm going to be hosting in January is the pattern is now live and available for purchase on Ravelry. Obviously, with it being a mystery knit along, the pattern will be released in clues. So what you get at the moment, if you go ahead and purchase the pattern, is you get like an information sheet which gives you all the information about what yarn you'll need, needle sizes and stuff like that, gauge and all that sort of information that you get at the beginning of a pattern. It is a very basic knit. It's very much suitable for beginners. It's designed to be something simple and easy, and just mindless enough for you to be able to watch TV and stuff and relax with it, but not so mindless that it gets boring. So things change up relatively frequently, but not so frequently that it feels like you're constantly having to pay attention to the pattern. It's supposed to be a nice cozy knit, something that will be nice and snuggly to wrap up in after you're finished. It's a shawl, I can say that much, I guess. It's and it's called the Cozy Schlanket Cowl on Ravelry, and it's the Cozy Schlanket because it's basically a shawl blanket because it's that big. Once it's finished, it's designed to be knit out of Aran weight or worsted weight yarn. Again, all the yardage requirements and everything are on the pattern page. You'll need 3 colours. If you are wanting to stash dive and you don't have enough worsted weight or something, you can also use fingering weight held double. That generally equals a worsted weight sort of gauge, and you can swatch it if you want to see how that looks, but as long as you have a minimum of 400 yards in your skein of fingering weight yarn, if you hold a double, then that should be fine. I do have a chatter thread for the mystery knit along already open in my group where I'm answering questions about yarn choices or substitutions or any other questions that people have about the pattern to help them like pick what yarns to use. So if you have any questions, make sure you pop along to that thread. First of all, you can see if someone's already asked the question that you wanted to ask and check the response, or ask a question if no one else has asked it, and I'll be sure to reply. I'm really not that great at keeping up with the threads and answering everybody in the Ravelry groups, but I have made a very conscious effort to make sure I check that thread every day and go in and answer any new questions that come up, because I know if people are wanting to get yarn sorted and stuff ahead of the knit along starting on January 1st, you're going to want to know the answers to those questions as soon as possible. And on the note of Ravelry, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's introduced themselves in the introductions thread. I do read all the messages, I just don't have enough time to sit down and reply to everyone, and it does honestly, I was doing that for quite a long time, but after a while it just felt like I was saying the same thing again and again to everyone, and it just didn't seem very personal. So I'm just going to say a big collective thank you for introducing yourselves and joining the group. I really appreciate having you guys as part of the family, I guess, podcast family. And yeah, so I think that pretty much covers what I was going to talk about with the mystery knit along. Like I said, if you do have any further questions or you need some additional clarification on stuff, please go to that thread and ask your question there. I ask that you ask the question there only because then it will allow other people who are taking part to check and see, check and see if their questions have been answered, rather than just answering them all through private messages. So I hope that makes sense. Hugo's come back, see if any treats were left behind. Right, and as usual, we have a coupons code thread in the group. So if you are looking for some enabling help, then you can check out that thread and see what active coupons we have going at the moment. Hugo's going to come sit on my lap, I think. Hey, we're feeling a bit cold. Boys are not used to cold weather. Yeah. Except you're going to settle, or you're going to just be... Okay, you want attention. Okay, so we'll move on to finished objects. First up, I have actually my two finished objects this week are both design projects. So the first one is one that was a work in progress last week that I showed you. And this is the little baby design sweater that I've been working on. So this is the second version that I've knit up. And this is in a larger size. This is in the... I want to say this is the 6 month size. So the first one I knit up was originally what I thought was going to be a 3 to 6 month size. But after having finished it, I kind of felt like it was slightly, like the measurements seemed a bit small. It would have been fine for like a dress or something that was a bit more fitted, but for like a sweater or a jumper that's going to go over clothes, it felt like it was a bit snug. I guess it just depends on the size of your baby, so I've kind of adjusted the pattern. So that one, which was the striping one that I did, that one is now going to be the... I can't remember how I did it now, but that was going to be a slightly smaller size than this one. Or maybe... I didn't actually write down what size this was going to be, but anyway, this is like the middle. This is going to be like the middle size that's going to be available in the pattern. So it's around the 6 month size. And as you can see here, I've got Hugo on my lap, so I can't get too close. But I've added a texture pattern to the body here after separating for the sleeves. Nice sort of just a very simple knit pearl texture, which is a fun sort of chevron pattern, which I liked. So that will probably be included into the pattern as well. I just need to make sure that it works for all sizes and make any adjustments that I need to for that. But yeah, really nice simple baby jumper. The yellow yarn is by I Knit London. It's not a particular colourway, it was a custom dye job that I'd asked Gerard, who runs the store and dyes yarn, to dye out for me. And the contrasting grey is a Tosh Merino light leftover that I had in the Turn colourway, which I just used for contrasting cuffs and the ribbing and stuff. And then what I've changed on this one compared to the first one that I did was I did the neckband slightly differently. I added a button and buttonhole, so this should make it get the buttonhole to open. button to open up. This just gives a little bit of extra sort of maneuverability around the neckline to get it over baby's head if you have a big-headed baby, or just to make it easier, I guess, more than anything else. And who could resist a cute little ducky button? Get that to focus, there you go. Just a little ducky button. This was from a little mixed bag of cutesy buttons that I picked up when I was in London recently, and I just thought that yellow went perfectly with this. So I'm really chuffed with how this has turned out. This won't fit the baby for a while. Like I said, it is a larger size, but I'm probably going to be knitting at least one more version of this. Sorry, the street noises outside, or maybe it's just me moving so much, is too much for Hugo. Okay, I can show this better now. So yeah, I really like how this has turned out. It blocked out beautifully, and yeah, I knit this. So this is knit on 3.75mm needles, which is a US 5. And I think I've pretty much covered all the other pattern details for that. I will be getting this pattern written up probably. I think I'm going to set some time next week between Christmas and New Year's, a couple of days, to just sit down and write up some patterns. I've got a few that I need to write up now, and I just want to get them all written up and drafted, and then I can have them sent off to be tested and tech edited and whatever from the new year, and then I'll have a stack of patterns ready to release, which will be nice. The next finished object is part of a set. I've already done the hat and the socks, which I've shown in past podcasts, and this is now the cowl to go with the set, and it is the what I'm calling the set. The patterns are a seeded path, so you've got a seeded path hat, a seeded path socks, and now a seeded path cowl. And again, it's a really fun sort of chevron pattern with knits and pearls, and this is out of the Brooklyn Tweed Arbor in the Vintner base, V-I-N-T-N-E-R, Vintner base, colour, sorry, not base. It's the Arbor base, and it's 50 grams in one skein, and I actually bought 2 skeins, thinking that this pattern was going to need more than that, but I actually managed to get this cowl out of a single skein of that yarn, which is quite nice to know that you can get a cowl out of a single skein of DK from Brooklyn Tweed if you wanted. So this is a good size either if you want, I'll put it on and show you, this will be a good size either for a child or as an adult if you want something that's a bit close fitting, sort of almost like a muff to cover your face and nose. And after the last couple of days walking around with it being so cold outside, I have to say having something to cover this part of your face is would be very nice, and I definitely appreciate having it. I'm not a massive fan of the single loop cowls that sort of just hang here, because I feel like they're great if you want it more as an accessory, I guess, to go with an outfit rather than in my opinion, a practical item to keep you warm, I think. Because, and I can see how some people might prefer it, but if I'm wearing a cowl to keep me warm, I want it to be up against my neck and to keep this whole area covered. So either it needs to be a double loop cowl where I can have it like so smushed up around my neck, or if it's a single loop, I kind of want it to be more fitted like this. With the ones that are slightly more drapey, they kind of sit lower down on your neck, and this whole part of your neck is still exposed. Or you have to like fold it in a specific way to like tuck under a coat, and even then your neck is generally still quite exposed. It's not completely covered like it would be with this. That's just my personal preference. Obviously this pattern will be written up from like this size up to essentially double this size, because then 100 grams would get you double this width, which would be more like a longer single loop version of this. So I've got fluff now all over my face. So you can obviously do what you would prefer, but that is just my personal opinion and personal preference, and why I went with this particular size. So that's a seeded path cowl, and this was also knit on 3.75s needles, US 5s. And yeah, and again this set will be out sometime in the new year as well. So those are my 2 finished objects for this week. don't have, I almost had a third finished object, but then I decided to cast on a whole bunch of things yesterday. I realised that if I'd spent the time and finished the thing that I was almost finished on yesterday, and didn't cast on anything new, I would have had all finished objects and nothing new to show you today. So, moving on to works in progress, the first thing I have to show you is a pair of socks. Surprise, surprise. These are the ones that I've almost finished, and they are almost ready for toes. I think I'm about 10 rows away from toes, from starting toe decreases. And so these are the Happy Pills colorway. This is the Happy Pills colorway by O Loops. It's a self-striping sport weight yarn. And so I cast on 56 stitches on 2.5mm needles, and I have these, which is the US 1.5, and I have these on a set of Chai needles, magic loop, 40-inch cable, 100 centimeters. I really like Chai needles. I have nothing against them. The cables are a little bit stiff, but I don't mind it. It doesn't bother me with 2 at a time knitting. I don't find that I get any more laddering. I mean, there's some slight laddering, but I always have slight laddering on my socks anyway. I don't find it's any more or less than when I use my high sharps. I just don't have these in 2.25s, which is why I don't knit with them very often. But I have them in 2.5 and 2.75mm, so I use them for sport weight and sort of like thicker yarns for socks. And I really enjoy these needles. This is what the yarn looks like balled up. It's just really fun, sort of more pastel colours. And yeah, so it's their Superwash Sport, 80% Superwash Merino, 20% nylon, 328 yards in 100 grams in the yarn. So yeah, like I said, I'm about 10 rows away from starting toe decreases, and these will be done probably today. And these will be for a gift. I'm not sure who to yet, but someone will be getting, actually I'm pretty sure I know who. Probably go to my sister-in-law, I think. I'm pretty sure she'll like those colours. The next work in progress I have is the first one that I cast on yesterday. It's another pair of socks. This is a pair of cobblestone socks for Perry. And these are on high sharps on 2.25mm. I've only just started them. I think I've just done one pattern repeat on those, so you can't really see much yet, but just a 2x2 rib, and moved into the cobblestones pattern, which is one of my designs from my Beyond Vanilla Part 1 collection. And the yarn is by Nooch Fibre, which I picked up at Knitty City, and it's the Midtown sock in the Honor colorway. You see that there, it's a 75-25 Superwash Merino nylon, and I hand wound it into 2 50-gram balls to knit socks for Perry. So those are going to be his Christmas socks. They may or may not be finished in time for Christmas, but he'll get them. And he picked out the colour and everything, so it's really funny. I was winding up the yarn for those socks, and he asked me, he's like, so what are those going to be? I'm like, those are the socks for you that you picked out the yarn for me to make you socks. He was like, oh, okay. And then yesterday I was knitting on them on the subway, and he looks at me, he was like, so what are these? I'm like, these are your socks that you picked out the yarn for. I don't know how many like red skeins of yarn he thinks I have, but I just thought that was funny. Okay, and next up, which I cast on last night in another one of my project bags. I haven't actually said, but all the project bags that I've been showing are all ones that I've made myself, and because I've now sort of permanently or indefinitely put my Etsy shop on vacation mode or in hibernation, I kind of don't really talk about it as much anymore. But if you are wondering, these are all project bags that I've made and in the past have sold on Etsy. I'm just not doing that at the moment anymore. So next up is another little nugget knit for the baby, and this is the My Gift to You cardigan pattern by Taylor Hillard, and it's a worsted weight pattern using 4mm and 4.5mm needles. And I I knit up to the point where I split for the sleeves. I'll talk about the yarn in a second. I'm just trying to edge a bit closer to show you. So this is what it looks like at the moment. And as you can see, it's a slightly asymmetrical cardigan front. So it's wider on one side, so it buttons up on one side. And it only has buttons at the top. So it's got 4 buttons at the top and then it's open. So, and then from here on, the bottom has a textured section. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. I just don't have a printout. So I've been working off my computer. So I don't have a picture to be able to show you. But this is what it looks like so far. And then from here on, the body's gonna have like a nice texture to it as well. And I've put in the buttonholes. This size is the smaller size, the 0 to 3 month size. And this will have 4 buttons on it. So I'm knitting this and another baby pattern, which depending on how cold and how big the baby is when she's born, one of these will likely be what she wears when she comes home from the hospital. So this is a worsted weight one out of Malabrigo Rios in the Papyrus colorway. I've got the tag here to show you. That's what it looks like in the ball. And sorry, I'll get the tag to show you in the Papyrus colorway. I really love this purple. It's a really lovely rich color. And yeah, so really enjoying that. And like I said, I only worked on this for maybe an hour or so last night. Really quick knit. And I said what size needles I was using for this: 4mm and 4.5, which is US 6 and 7. I'm just curious. And my last work in progress, which I actually only cast on this morning, about maybe half an hour ago before I started recording. And this is a newborn vertebrae, which is a pattern by Kelly Brooker. And the newborn vertebrae is actually a free pattern on Ravelry, and she has other sizes which are paid for patterns. And this one, like I said, I've only just started. I've done like 10 rows, so there's not really much to see. If I can get that to focus on I just want to show you the colorway and how it knits up. It's really beautiful. This is the Verdant Griffin yarn and the Bugger base, which is an MCN, I believe. Yeah, 70% superwash merino, 20% Mongolian cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it is in the psychedelic peacock colorway. It's actually a sport weight, but it's more, I think it's more of a thick fingering. It's in the psychedelic peacock colorway. And this is one of the skeins that I picked up, I want to say, I think it was last year in October when I came to New York. So yeah, that's where we're at. Just literally started this morning, so not very far at all, but it is a pretty quick knit. I have done this once before. What I'm probably going to do is I will probably do 1 or 2 more increases than the pattern calls for, just because I have knit this pattern once before and it is incredibly tiny, and I think it's highly unlikely that my baby's going to be that small. So yeah, just 1 or 2 more increases I think than the pattern calls for, but otherwise I'll be knitting it as written. And yeah, like I said, depending on how cold and how big she is, she'll either wear this or the other cardigan, or maybe even something else completely. I might change my mind, but that's the idea. Oh, and I'll show you the cake. So that's what the yarn looks like in the cake. It is pretty, it's looking a little bit washed out on the screen, but I'm hoping it's not going to be like that when I look at it on the computer. So yeah, really nice, bright colours. Perfect for a little baby. And that pretty much sums up all of my works in progress. It's quite a lot. Definitely more than I've had to show you in the last couple of weeks. If you haven't been able to tell and you've been watching the podcast, I'm definitely feeling much better than I was feeling last week. Last week was a pretty rough week for me in general. Just very tired. I had quite a few people who were concerned, messaging me to say, oh, you should go to a doctor, you should get that checked out, blah blah blah. I was like, I'm pretty well in tune with my body to know when I'm just tired versus when I'm actually ill. and I was pretty sure this was just fatigue, this was just actual tiredness. And after everything that had been going on in the weeks leading up to us moving and the first week or so of us being here, it was just everything catching up with me more than anything else, and I just needed a few days to just rest and recoup, and I'm feeling much better this week, which is great. And on that note, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be back with you with acquisitions, and then questions and answers, and a week in review. So I'm back now with acquisitions, and it's not really an acquisition, it was something that was sent to me in the mail. A very lovely viewer called Miriam, who also lives in New York State but not in the city. She lives outside of the city, and she has a small farm where she has some sheep, and she got in touch with me saying that she wanted to send me some goodies, and including some yarn that she's had made or processed from the fleece from her sheep. And she very kindly sent me these two squishy, super squishy skeins of there we go, of natural, it's a natural coloured sport weight yarn. It's she's called it Alpaca 2016. It's 75% wool and 25% alpaca. It's a sport weight, 4 ounces, 113 grams per skein, and 300 yards or 274 meters per skein. Really, really super soft and squishy. I'm not entirely sure what it's going to be yet. Probably some kind of shawl or something, some sort of accessory. It's really beautiful, really quite soft. It's not the softest yarn, but it's pretty soft as far as like the sort of blend goes. And so Sal, which is part of the Alpaca of the name, Sal is a Suffolk cross wether, a fixed male. He was born in 2013 on a farm nearby to where she lives, but when he was a lamb he was lost in a bad storm at night, and by the time his shepherdess found him, I just realised I should explain, she gave me this little card with information about the sheep, so I thought I'd read that out. So by the time his shepherdess found him, he had already been rejected by his mother. Sal had to be raised by his human in the house, wearing a diaper and living in the kitchen. When his first shepherdess sold the farm, Sal was purchased by another nearby neighbour. He spent a couple of years there enjoying a lovely grassy hill and front yard and a nice little group of sheep friends. Now he's with us, Sal enjoys his little Shetland ewe friends. He is not happy when we bring in other big boy sheep who threaten his position as largest sheep, but he forgives us when we spoil him with carrots and back rubs. He loves meeting new people. And so there's some pictures on there of Sal as well, which I thought was really cute. It's lovely to have a bit of a backstory to the sheep that have, or in this case the single sheep that has provided the yarn or the fleece that has gone into making this lovely yarn. And thank you so much to Miriam for sending it to me. And yeah, and so the information on the yarn tag says the animals who grew this fibre are raised in New York, the yarn milled at Morningstar Fibre in North Carolina, and it's hand wash in cool to lukewarm and lay flat to dry. Pretty standard yarn care instructions there. But it's really fun, really exciting. It's the first yarn that I know of that I have that is from animals that were raised in New York exclusively, that I'm aware of. I may have others, I may have some stuff in my stash that I'm not aware of, but this is the only one I know for sure. So that's really exciting and fun. I have no idea what it's going to be yet. I may or may not use one of skein for a giveaway, I haven't quite decided, but really excited to work with this in the future. So thank you so much for that. I don't have any knit along or giveaway news. I still have those 2 prizes to send out. The winners have been in touch with me, I just haven't had a chance to track down the local nearest post office to be able to send them out. And I'll probably do that after Christmas at this point. I don't think I'm going to have time this week, but I'll probably do it sometime next week between Christmas and New Year's. So apologies if you're waiting for one of the prizes. There was a reason why I'd asked for people to get in touch with me before we moved, because I knew things would be a bit hectic once we got here. For the Q&A, when I took a break, I did have a quick check, and there actually weren't any new questions that I hadn't answered. Sorry, I don't really sort of hear the background noise that much anymore, but occasionally I hear a boat, like, horn or something, and it catches me off guard. But so there were no new questions this week. If you do have any questions for me, please feel free to jump into the questions and suggestions thread in the group, and let me know what your question is. I'll be happy to answer it for you on the podcast. So I'll move straight on to the week in review. So first up, I wanted to say I had my doctor's appointment last week, which went really, really well. It was so good, and Perry and I just was so relieved afterwards that it just went so well. She was really lovely. She was very relaxed. She was very easy to talk to. Didn't make me feel silly for asking what I felt were like silly questions. She was very good at explaining things, and she was very understanding. And just in general, it just made us both feel completely at ease. And like, she was very understanding of our situation and all of that stuff. So it was great. It was very. We sort of both walked out of there, and I felt instantly a lot lighter. Like, I felt like there was a massive load lifted, and I wasn't so stressed anymore. Like, it was a very immediate reaction. So that was great, and very much sort of like the best case scenario of what I was hoping would happen. So that was incredibly lovely. And also I'd taken my shoes off to like get weighed and all that sort of stuff before she walked in. So, and when she walked in, after saying hello, the first thing she said was, "I like your socks." And I was obviously wearing a pair of hand knit socks, and I was like, "Thank you." And I didn't tell her I'd make them. It kind of, the conversation moved on quite quickly after that to baby things. But I was just like, mental note, she deserves a pair of socks. So I was like, if anyone notices, if that's one of the first things someone notices, then they deserve a pair of socks. And then after that, Perry had to go off to do some work, and I basically, the apartment we're moving to is across town from the doctor's office, literally across from Central Park, from where the doctor's office is. And there's actually a bus that just runs straight across from one side to the other, and should pretty much run from the door, well, 1 block from our apartment straight outside the doctor's office. So I was like, well, I've got some time to kill. Perry's had to go off and do his thing, and I've got plenty of time. So I thought I'd take the bus and see how long it takes. And the bus takes about 15 minutes from outside the doctor's office to home, or what will be our home. And I assume the same in the other direction, thereabouts. Obviously, I don't think I'd ever leave it that close, but if I had an appointment. But it's good to know that it's quick and easy to get to by bus, because otherwise, if I had to go by subway, you have to go all the way down to Midtown and then back up the other side to get to the Upper West Side where the doctor's office is. So the fact that it's just a 15-20 minute bus ride is so great. And there's also so where the doctor's office is, it's a clinic where a bunch of different specialities are there. They also have pediatricians at the same clinic, so that'd be good after the baby's born as well. If we find a pediatrician that we like who's there, then it'd be easy to get the baby to and from the doctor as well. So little conveniences are always handy. Yeah, and then the weekend we had Kristen of the Yarn Gasm podcast. She had her holiday party on the weekend, so she'd invited me and Perry along as well, which was really lovely of her to do, and we had a great time. It was lots of fun. We played, basically there was like a group of, there must have been like 10 of us knitters, just sat around playing Cards Against Humanity for hours that evening, so that was fun. And if you've never played Cards Against Humanity, it's just a really fun card game where you just need to just accept the fact that things aren't going to be completely PC the whole time. But it you know, as long as you have a good sense of humour, it's a lot of fun. And then there are a couple of expansion packs that Kristen had which were knitting related as well, so that was always fun to have in there. And then yeah, I've been trying to rest as much as possible since our last podcast. I've noticed I don't have as much energy for as long as I used to, which is fine. It's just I'm more in tune to what I can and can't do now after what happened last week. But so I find I'm good if I'm out and about, like on my feet and stuff. I'm good for 1 to 2 hours. After that, I'm like, I really have to sit down, or you know, I have to come and lay down, and like I have to have a proper rest more than just like sitting down for 5 minutes. So we've been trying to do things within those sorts of time frames where if we're going to go out, I make sure I can come back and have a rest before we have to go out again in the evening or something like that. So that's been working out pretty well so far. We went looking at strollers these last few days. We spent 3-4 days going around to different places to actually check out strollers in person. We'd done a lot of research online before we came to New York, and since we got here, there were a couple of models that we wanted to check out in person, which we were struggling to actually find anywhere that had one on display that we could look at. We finally found it. I was pretty sure that was the stroller I would want to go for, and we finally went and checked it out. And I was, like I said, I was pretty convinced it was the right one. I wanted Perry to see it, and I wanted him to be sure that it was the right one, and he really liked it as well. I mean, it's by no means perfect. I don't think anything is ever really perfect, but it is the most suitable for our situation. It is the most flexible and most convenient for our situation. And I have to say, like, I posted, and I haven't disclosed what stroller we're getting, and I probably won't disclose that information. We haven't bought it yet. We were just checking it out. We don't have any, we're waiting until we've moved into our apartment before we actually buy any equipment stuff. We're just doing research at this point and trying to decide on certain things. And the stroller was one of the big ticket items that we wanted to sort out and sort of at least have an idea of what we wanted. So I'd posted on Instagram yesterday that, you know, that we'd finally decided on the stroller that we wanted. And I really wasn't expecting quite the reaction that got. I was inundated with well-intentioned people just offering up their opinions about strollers, and I had a lot of people asking or telling me to consider getting carriers, like a baby carrier. Now, at no point in anything that I've said have I ever said that I won't be getting a carrier, or that, you know, we were only going to have a stroller and not get a carrier or anything like that. And I was kind of a bit taken aback. I think I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised by the reaction, and I was kind of contemplating about whether or not I should even say anything about it today. And I probably won't go too much into it, but and I did respond to quite a few of the messages on Instagram, and like directly reply to people, and I try to remind myself for the most part, and I know this is true, but I try to remind myself for the most part people aren't saying these things to be people are saying these things from a place of caring, and from a place of just trying to be helpful, and just trying to share their experiences, and I totally get that, and I appreciate it, and I know I've been guilty of doing it at times in the past myself. But I've personally been making a very conscious effort within myself not to offer up opinions when they're not requested, if that makes sense. If someone hasn't asked a question or asked for an opinion, I try to not provide an opinion, especially when it comes to something like parenting, which is such a touchy subject anyway. I've specifically stayed away from like the sort of mummy forums and stuff like that online, just because the idea of those sort of things like kind of terrify me a little bit. And I remember my mum was telling me a few years ago now, when, you know, when I was born, I was my parents' first child. They were living in the UK, away from family. They didn't really have much, they didn't have a lot of family. My mum had her sister in the UK, but other than that, they didn't have any other, like my mum didn't have any of her other family around, or my dad's family around to help out. And so, and I was quite a sickly baby, in fairness. Like, I was not an easy baby. But my parents had no idea what to do. You know, there was no internet back then, and it was all a lot harder. And so they were getting advice left, right and centre. Everyone was giving them different information, and it got to a point where they just didn't know what to do anymore. Like, everything they were trying, nothing was working, and it was just and it was just overwhelming for them. And I can totally see how that happens, and probably even more so now with the internet and everything that goes on online. And so the one thing I've taken away from all of this, and a few people said this yesterday as well, is just, you just do what's right for you. And you know I don't think we'll ever do anything that would be against the best interests of our baby. We're both very risk averse people and we always do a lot of research and always do a lot of checking and, like I said, research into everything that we do. So we treat stuff for the baby in the same sort of way. Like, we know what is going to suit our lifestyle, we know what's going to work for us. Like, I had a few people say that they felt for them that getting a stroller was a complete waste of money, and they never used one, which is great for them, but and they use carriers all the time with their kids. absolutely great for them, and like all the power to you if you can do that. But I have a really bad history with back pain, and currently I'm suffering with a lot of back pain, and the idea that not having a stroller seems like the worst idea for me possible. Obviously I would love to carry my baby, and I probably will for as much as I can, but I don't think it's a very practical situation for me to do that exclusively. We don't have a car, we're not going to have a car, at least not whilst we're living in New York, and so the idea that we wouldn't have anything other than a carrier to carry the baby around in just seems really impractical for a lot of situations. So I don't know, that's just my 2 cents, I guess. And like I said, for the most part I don't mind people giving me their opinions, especially if I've asked for them, and even if I haven't, like I said, I appreciate that they come from a place of caring and from a place where people are trying to help and be a bit they're just trying to be helpful, and you know, they care, and they're not trying to be mean or be rude or anything like that, and I totally appreciate that, and I do get it. I just feel sometimes people aren't as careful with their choice of wording as they maybe should be or could be. Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't really intended to turn into a bit of a rant, which I kind of feel like that's what it ended up being, but it's just something that's been bugging me since yesterday, and I felt like I wanted to make my side of the story clear. I don't feel like I need to justify any of the decisions that we make with regards to our baby, and I won't justify anything that we decide to do because it's our decision at the end of the day. But it has made me realize, like, I genuinely didn't think just expressing the thought, you know, the just a sentence that we had decided on a stroller, I did not think that was going to be quite so controversial, and it's really making me think twice about what sort of things I might share going forward. I've always been quite open and been happy to share things that we've been doing and developments with the baby and stuff like that, but that level of reaction was definitely not something I'd expected. And a few people had said things like, oh, you should just don't bother talking about what brands you go for and stuff, and that's specifically why I didn't mention what stroller we're going for or what brand it is or anything like that, because I wanted to avoid that issue, which is why I was still surprised by the reaction. Anyway, like I said, I'm hoping I didn't offend anyone with what I've said. It wasn't my intention to offend anybody. I just wanted to sort of put my point across, I guess. So other than that, what else have we done this week? Oh, we went to the Rockefeller Center yesterday, check out the Christmas tree. I did take some footage, but what I'm going to do is hoping to get a little bit more footage over the next few days in the run up to Christmas, and then I'll kind of do a short little Christmassy vlog episode which will go up around Christmas Day, Boxing Day sort of time, I think. Then later today I'm probably going to head down to Woolen in Brooklyn to meet up with some friends, do some knitting, and possibly I'm looking to pick up my yarn to cast on for the mystery knit along with you guys in January for the shawl. I realised I wanted to knit a worsted weight version. I've done the Aran weight version, I want to do a worsted weight version, so I had one of each for pattern photos for after the pattern's done, but also to knit along with you guys. And I realised I don't have enough yarn. So the only worsted weight yarn that I do have is another skein of that Malabrigo Rios in the papyrus, in that purple papyrus colourway. So I'll probably take that skein with me and see if I can find 2 skeins to go with it, or I might just find 3 skeins completely different sort of colour scheme to go together. Because the first version I did of that shawl I did in a purple, green and grey, which is very much my colour palette. It is very much my comfort zone with colours, so I might try and push the boat out and go a slightly different direction with this one. Other than that, we have a Christmas dinner that we're going to tomorrow evening with some of Perry's classmates, which should be fun. And we're going to check out some Christmas markets, I think, over the next couple of days. We still haven't had a chance to do that. And then yeah, I think our plans for Christmas Day, nothing exciting, it's just the 2 of us. I think we're probably going to go to the cinema and see Rogue One on Christmas Day. I thought that would be quite fun, considering last year on Christmas Day we went to see A Force Awakens. So a bit of a Star Wars Christmas theme thing going on with us at the moment. And then yeah, we'll probably just come back home and veg out and watch Netflix, and I'll knit, and Perry might cook some food and just hang out really. Just have a nice relaxing weekend. So I will be podcasting again next week. before New Year's, and it will be a bit of a roundup episode, I guess. I'll go over my yearly stats, what I've achieved this year, what I didn't achieve this year that I'd wanted to, what I hope to achieve next year. I think my goals for next year are going to be very loose and very relaxed compared to some goals that I had for this year. Only because with the baby coming in February, I have no idea how the baby's going to affect my knitting. I imagine I'm probably not going to knit very much at the beginning after she's born, but a lot of how much knitting I get to do will probably have a lot to do with how easy she ends up being, how demanding she is, and how tired I am, really, because there are a lot of times if I'm really exhausted, I don't want to do anything other than sleep. So we'll see. I'm very curious. It's interesting because I look into next year, and at least the first half of next year, and I'm really not sure how anything is going to work out, or how I'm going to feel about anything, because I just don't know how this baby's going to change. I know it's going to change our lives, I just don't know how drastically or by how much, and how much of what we used to do we'll still be able to do or not do. I'm just expecting everything to be different, and then I figure anything that stays the same is just happens to work out that way. So we'll see. Like I said, it all depends on how she is and how quickly we all adapt to our new situation. So with that, I think that's pretty much it for this week. I'm sorry about the rant again, but yeah, that's that. I hope you all have a lovely holiday week ahead. Enjoy Christmas if you celebrate, and I will see you guys next week for the end of the year roundup. Alright, take care. I'm stumbling on words now. Take care, have a happy knitting week, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.